All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on playback and YouTube here. I'm looking for play. Are we on? Am I screwing up playback? There
Yeah,
we
you're
go.
already on playback. I see you on playback.
Oh, I'm trying to add you, but I don't have that power anymore.
Yeah, I see it changed. Something changed.
Can you add him, Jacob, when you get a sec? In the meantime, hello Yahoo or Yahoo YouTube. I'm making my Yahoo lineup because, of course, chasing a little overlay. Had a nice night on Yahoo over there. I know Greg Ehrenberg hates that site, but I continue to win there, so I'm enjoying it. Actually had a nice night on BetMGM, or probably I say BetMGM when I mean Hard Rock. There's only one casino here or online wagering place in Florida, and it treated me well last night, Matt. How have you been? We haven't chatted. We've seen an NBA Finals game. It's been a whole week. What's been going on, my friend?
Yeah, excited to be here with you. Figured we'd have today and tomorrow to catch up. Pretty normal stuff as usual. Nothing exciting, which around my household is always good news. So we'll take that. Excited to get on here and talk some MLB with you. I think the wife and daughter are going to be gone when I'm done. So ready for a relaxing Saturday afternoon.
Nice. Or hopefully they're out doing something fun or family related, and you get a little prime Maddie time, as they say.
Yeah, I think they're going to a pool with one of her friends. So hopefully they decide to sleep over.
Always fun. Always fun. All righty. So we're going to cover both slates here. We've got a 10-gamer going on at 4:05. We have a 4-gamer that starts at 7:35. So it should be a fun one today. We, of course, are going to cover weather, of which we have a little. We're going to give you some home run picks, and we're going to have some fun. So we'll start in here. First off, Matt, I'm looking at the weather. It doesn't, we always go to our usual favorite weather sites. It doesn't seem that there's anything too bad. The Chicago game, Boston in Chicago, little bit of weather there. But remember, that's a 4 o'clock start. It clears up around 7. So they're going to get the game in tonight. That shouldn't be an issue. St. Louis looked like there could be a little risk, but that seems to be evaporating, or at least not impacting the game window. If it was an evening game, they'd have a little bit more problem there. And then Detroit just has intermittent showers, so that should not really be an issue. No postponements on the table. And then even last night we saw Seattle and Kansas City. They played through some light rain, so it doesn't seem like there's any impending storm. So not too shabby there. Did you see Seattle rip off 7 runs there in the first inning last night? I wasn't even watching, and I looked down. I'm like, oh my god, they have 7 runs, and I haven't even turned the game on. Good time.
I did see that. They ripped off an 8-0 lead in the second inning, and then of course they lost. Reminded me of you're a Mariners fan, so maybe you'll remember this famous Sunday Night Baseball game.
The Cleveland game?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. One of the best Cleveland
Too soon,
games.
Matt. Too
okay.
soon.
One of the best, I just got to say, one of the best Cleveland games in any sport of all time. One of the greatest comebacks ever.
Yeah, that was I don't remember all the particulars, but I think the Mariners had like 15 or 18. It was something just
they were up like 11 or 12.
Yeah. And you just like revisionist history, but I think they had pulled a few of their starters and things like that. And it was just like, oh no, they ended up losing. So baseball being baseball, but that is the fun. That is what keeps us coming back. That is what spices up 162 games a year. I want to remind everybody that today we are sponsored by Better. So key things to understand with that are: 1, you need to use the promo code, no longer the link. We are using promo codes now, but that is promo code Stochastic and then the number 1. So Stochastic 1, and that gets you up to a $500 deposit match. That is gold. We don't see those too often anymore here. And I'm laughing because I'm plugged into the router and I can see my computer's lagging. So I may have to spring for even more internet here, but we'll get to that. As long as you guys can hear me, it'll be good. You don't have to see me. All right, Matt, let's talk the main slate here. A lot of pitching options. I'm going to hand this over to you. What are you seeing at the top here?
So, yeah, a lot of really good options today. I don't think they get any better than Freddie Peralta, though. Really good spot for him. There's a bunch of good options, but I think he's like the only ace in my mind, or only DFS ace, fairly priced at 10K. I don't think you have to play him because he's expensive and there are other good pitching options, but great matchup. One of the best DFS pitchers in baseball because of his strikeout upside. And I just think he's by far the best option on the slate. How about you?
So he was on Sunday's slate, and I asked Eric Lindquist if he knew what his nickname was, what Peralta's nickname was. Do you know what it is?
I do, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
It's pretty basic. It's Fastball Freddy. And I didn't know that either until looking at his baseball reference page when I was going to write him up. And Lindquist was laughing. He's like, well, in my mind, I've always thought of him as Fastball Freddy because he throws the fastball all the time. And I'm like, yeah, it's the perfect nickname. It's exactly what one would expect. But I wasn't expecting that to be so obvious. But in any event, I agree. He is clearly in a class by himself, but there are other options today here. Sometimes some of them you got to squint a little bit, right? We've got, and then we'll dig in a little deeper, but you got Charlie Morton, who had a rough one a couple starts ago, but he's back. He's got the Nationals again. I believe they were the team that actually roughed him up. You've got Kevin Gausman. He is in Oakland, taking on the Athletics. So that gives us two good options. You have Brian Bello in Chicago taking on the White Sox. The White Sox did hit 3 home runs last night. They had Luis Robert, who's not in the lineup today, but he, Andrew Vaughn, and Gavin Sheets each got one yesterday. But here we are back with another crummy iteration of the White Sox. You mentioned Peralta. You could sort of make a case for Kyle Bradish and Taj Bradley going against each other. One of those that I wouldn't hate. I don't know which one I want to pick, but I don't really envision liking either of the offenses against them. You've got the ever steady Luis Castillo going against Kansas City, and then we come full circle down to our last game of the slate at 4:15. Kyle Gibson, who can be had for a song on DraftKings and Yahoo, making him the perfect SP2. He's got a matchup against the Colorado Rockies. That one could be a little bit fun. So we have a lot of options here to craft the lineup. No real must-play offenses. No Coors Field, really splashing our player pool here. So how as you expand beyond Freddie Peralta for some decision points? What are you looking at?
I don't really like Kevin Gausman.
Okay, let's start
I'm a believer in his ultimate talent, and I think he'll probably get it turned around sooner rather than later, but he's picking up so much ownership and he just hasn't been that good. Again, like if he weren't getting love, and I understand why he is, because a matchup in Oakland against the A's, but he's been popular on a lot of slates recently and it hasn't really worked out. His underlying numbers are even worse than his actual numbers. I know there's a case to be made that he was like hurt at the beginning of the year, that he maybe had turned it around, but he hasn't shown me much that he's turned it around. So again, good spot, good ballpark, but more than happy fading him. For me, I think Kyle Bradish looks like the clear number 2 option between him and Bradley. I like Bradley's stuff and his talent as a young pitcher, but Bradish is the guy for me here. Better matchup. I mean, facing the Orioles is always a risky proposition, if nothing else. Bradish gets a strikeout heavy Tampa team on the road. So yeah, you maybe give a slight bump to Bradley at home, but not enough for me to like him over Bradish. You look at Bradish's underlying numbers and they are phenomenal. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so the interesting thing between Bradish and Gausman is Gausman just hasn't had the strikeouts recently. He's had one bad, and it was not great. It was against one of his former teams in Baltimore. But Gausman has like 3. I don't have his game logs up, but it's like 3, 3, 6, and 4 strikeouts in his last 4 starts, whereas Bradley has 6, 11, 6, and 6. And that's the baseline we would normally expect to see from Gausman. It just hasn't really happened this year. Yeah, he's getting a little bit older, could be harboring an injury, etc. There's nothing that says he can't return to form today against Oakland. But if you start to look at that, Bradish seems to have the better fantasy baseline if they were both in the same matchup. But Gausman does have the better matchup, but he's got the question marks. Depending on your side of choice, there's also potential salary difference. Now I'm looking at Yahoo right now; they're each at 43, so that's not that. There's no decision point there. But I'm peeking at Bello, at Gibson, etc., just to shake things up. But I did have Gaussman in my initial lineup, but I'm taking him out, and I'm trying to figure out who I want to pair with Bello now. So that's kind of interesting, I think.
Yeah, let me just speak on Gaussman and Bradish a little bit more. And again, this isn't the Bible. You can't use this as everything. But you look at their underlying numbers. Bradish has a 2.65 expected ERA. Gaussman has a 5.26 expected ERA. Bradish has a 32% strikeout percentage. Gaussman sitting at 22.7. Like, I don't think there's any question Bradish has been the better pitcher so far this year. Yeah, Gaussman has a much longer track record and the pedigree of being ultimately the better pitcher, but that's not who he is right now. And I think Bradish looks like the clear better option to me. Again, doesn't mean it's going to play out that way. That's just how I see it.
All right. Well, you talked me into it, and I got to build my lineup out now for Yahoo. So I am doing that. It's going to be Bradish and Bello. How do you feel about Bello on the other side, the more popular sides, since I am one of the handful of Yahoo diehards here?
Yeah, I don't know about Bello here, like, because I'm a little concerned about the weather. I guess maybe I shouldn't be, and I just like Bradish more. I know that Bello's in a much better spot, but I think Bradish just ultimately is the better pitcher with a higher upside. I don't think it's that far off, and I like Bello more than Gaussman. I do think, though, like after certainly Peralta's the number one for me, I do like Bradish number two. Because of price, I think Gibson is right there, honestly, because there just are no other cheap options, and he's way too cheap for this matchup.
All righty. Let me get to the top stacks tool. What do you like, or the top pitchers tool? What are you liking for leverage here?
So the guys that are getting love are the guys that should be getting love. There isn't a ton of like under-owned spots that I like just because I don't like that many pitchers on the slate. Ultimately, though, if forced to choose one, it's Luis Castillo. I mean, ultimately, I said Freddie Peralta is the best DFS pitcher on this slate, and he probably is, but Castillo, for my money, is the best actual pitcher on the slate. So there's always something to be said for that. Kansas City's pesky, and they don't strike out. Obviously, the top of their lineup is actually very good. So it's not easy pickings for Castillo here, but certainly at 4% owned, I wouldn't fault anyone for getting to him. I mean, I think he's totally viable there.
That is a rather low percentage, but I mean, I guess it makes sense because at 9,500, it just the way the point per dollar math works out, people are getting to him. But do I really want to go with Andrew Heaney? Even with that almost $3,000 discount, $2,800 discount, do I want to take Mackenzie Gore against Atlanta? Not really. Charlie Morton, $600 cheaper. All right, well, now I'm kind of leaning a little more towards Castillo there. But yeah, this is going to be kind of interesting because I can see, it's a kind of a 3-horse race according to the tools here. You've got Peralta, Gaussman, and Kyle Gibson up there as the 3 most popular players. Each person is going to be on about 1/3 of lineups here on DraftKings, but that is sort of where their comparativeness ends, because we've talked about Peralta being phenomenal. Peralta, was a nice portmanteau of his name. You've got Gaussman. We've got some question marks, and then there's always question marks with Kyle Gibson because strikeouts. He's 36 now. We know the strikeouts aren't coming. And that's something that is, can be frustrating because that is the currency of the realm here in MLB DFS. The interesting thing about him is that over his last 6 or 7 starts, he has almost a strikeout per inning, but all of the major projection systems have him kind of coming in with a career low for this season, which, by the way, makes sense because he is in his age 36 season. But the salary makes it good. So in his last 32.1 innings, he has 31 strikeouts. Zip Steamer, the bat, etc., have him between 7.1 and 7.4 per 9 innings. So he's getting about 1 per inning. That's not what he normally does. Frankly, at the very beginning of his career, he was closer to 6.5, made some adjustments to his pitch mix throughout the middle portion of his career. And now he's on the downward slope, because Father Time is undefeated, but that's still his lowest rate since 2018. So he's someone I'm playing in DFS as an SP2. I did take the under on him for 5.5 strikeouts. I found that one on Odd Shopper today. I wrote that up in the Spotlight Pitchers and Top Stacks articles. You guys can check that out. I'll drop the link there in a second. But that's sort of how I was honing in on that trio. But you've talked me into Bradish. Yahoo, I'm going to get my Brian Bello exposure over there. I feel okay with these guys. Anything you want to hit on them, and let's decide, is Andrew Heaney, Mackenzie Gore, Charlie Martin, are they players we want to go to battle with or we want to attack?
I think both, but honestly, the thing that intrigues me about all of them is they're not Kyle Gibson. And Kyle Gibson is a respectable arm, but he's only getting ownership because he's cheap and in a good spot. But it's hot in St. Louis. Like, he's clearly been getting by with smoke and mirrors. He's got close to a 5 expected ERA. Like, I expect regression to come for him. Might not happen today. Again, he's a grizzled vet, so maybe he's a guy that you can kind of look past the underlying numbers a little bit, but I don't know, man. Like, him at such ownership, I'm not sure I'm feeling that good about it. I know I'm not feeling good about it, but I get it because he's so cheap. One last thing about Peralta. I know you said you did the show. Did you happen to see his last start and how it started?
I did. I do not recall correct.
So he faced the White Sox at home. He threw, and I'm not even kidding, 45 pitches in the first inning. He was on the verge of getting pulled because he was at 45 pitches. He walked a bunch of guys. He gave up 3 singles. It was like 2-0 White Chicago after the first inning, and he had already thrown 45 pitches in the first. He still finished with 20 plus fantasy points.
That is pretty wild. And the one nice thing usually on Sundays is after the shows, I go for a walk. So I tend to amp up, get everything done, and then I go for a nice walk along the beach and just sort of collect my thoughts and enjoy living in Florida. So we will I've already done my walk for today, so I don't have to be doing that. But the old metabolism, Father Time's undefeated, so is metabolism. So I got to watch what I do. Oh, interesting. How did I end up with a Nestor Cortez line there? A little issue with the early slates. Okay, Yahoo. Let's behave. All righty. Let's oh, interesting. Oh, that's what I did that. Okay. Let's see here. I think we're ready to start talking stacks. Again, we're going to hit that 4-game 7:35 slate. We're going to talk about a couple of the tools here. So we want to make sure we get everything in for this game. We do have all of the lineups in. That is key. We've mentioned that nothing is really pertinent regarding the weather, or at least no postponements are on the table. There's a couple spots that could see a little passing rain, but we aren't seeing anything too crazy here. But let's turn our attention to the offenses. What do you have here coming out as your top stack? And is it going to be Boston?
Yeah, Boston looks good here against Nick Nistranian, this atrocious White Sox bullpen. They're going to be popular, though. Like, I know that we show them as 10% owned, right in line with their top stack percentage, but the top of their lineup is certainly going to be owned because they're in a very good spot and they're not expensive. So,
well,
they have one of the higher.
Rafi Devers, 6,000. A little expensive.
He's expensive, and they still have one of the highest value stacks on the board. They're third behind only the White Sox and the Cardinals as far as value goes.
That's what happens when Tyler O'Neill is out, because Dominic Smith is in the lineup at 3,000. Bobby Dahlbeck is in the lineup at 2,100. Bobby strike out half the time in his last 60 plate appearances against that was against lefties. That was last night. He's not much better against righties. He's been a disappointment and on my dynasty team, sadly. And I bid on him this year. Oh, I can't quit him. But I actually advocated for Rob Refsnyder today. Normally, I say, I don't, let it go. Let him be your differentiation point against other Boston stacks. But he actually profiles pretty well against Nastrini. Pretty much everybody does. So Nastrini had allowed 4 runs in 4 innings in his last start, Matt, lowering his ERA. So 4 runs in 4 innings, he lowered his ERA to 9.74. Last Sunday, the Top Stacks tool officially commemorated Sunday as National Nick Nastrini Day. We can't borrow that again. Perhaps we will a little later in the season if Nastrini is still around. In 5 starts this season, the former UCLA Bruin has been awful. 20.1 innings, 9.74 ERA, 207 WHIP. He has 20 walks in 20 and the 3rd innings. 1 per inning for the walks. He doesn't have 1 strikeout per inning. This is a pitcher who's not ready for prime time. He should be a reliever. He should be okay. He just needs more seasoning. It's not coming together for him here in the show. But I think we keep attacking him until he goes back down to the minors. That's sort of my assessment. But you're right. That's what everybody's going to think as well. That run total has popped up. It was just over 5 this morning. It's at 5.3 on a lot of sites now. So it's ticking up. But that is my favorite team. We have 19 others. So we don't have to go to Boston if we don't want to. What is your next team up on the 10-game afternoon slate?
So I'm with you. I think Boston does look the best out of everyone, but I don't think they look that much better than everyone else where ownership is probably going to be on them. That said, maybe I'm wrong because ownership is projected to be split, and it probably is split because a lot of these teams look good. So Boston looks good. Minnesota looks good. Seattle and St. Louis look good. For me, I kind of like Toronto and Texas against 2 young pitchers that in the past have not been good, and I don't expect to be good in the future.
Give me a little something there on Toronto. They're going against no one's going to get the reference, but I'm going to say it anyway. Funky Cole Medina. Shout out to Tone Loc from a song back in let's probably say 1986, 1987, somewhere around there. But makes me laugh. That was a lifetime ago, literally a lifetime ago. But what are you liking here for Toronto? Because if we start looking at some of their season-long numbers against righties, there's a lot of red in their charts. It's a little pinkish now. So they're improving a little bit, but it doesn't look great.
No, it's not great, but we know a lot of these hitters have proven track records. I always like a team like Toronto when they're not getting ownership against a pitcher like this. They're really not getting ownership because there's just so many teams to get to, and they're not crazy cheap. But they were popular last night against Hogan Harris, and they're in a better spot today. Much preferred teams in the daytime in Oakland. They're sitting in the upper 3rd in our top stack tool. 6% chance of being a top stack or being the top stack. Only 4% ownership. And I was liking them already. They called Spencer Horvitz up, who had been really hitting in the minors. He's hitting 2nd. Vogelbach's hitting 5th or 6th, I think. So they do have 2 first basemen that you got to worry about, but at least Vlad has 3rd base eligible. I don't know. Daytime in Oakland, much better hitting spot than it usually is. Obviously still not good, but I don't think Medina's good. So I like Toronto here.
All right, we've got in chat Anthony Papagayo, no relation to Papa Giorgio, but Anthony Papagayo says, nothing makes me feel older than understanding an EMac reference. Always good, always good. Bonus points for that. They may or may not be awarded in the form of FanDuel or DraftKings points. We'll have to see, but bonus points from me. Who else is coming up here? It's kind of like a cast of thousands. It's an okay matchup there for Milwaukee going against Casey Mize. The Mariners against Alec Marsh. You kind of called that out. It seems that Paul Goldschmidt, remember that he's a really, really good baseball player, even though he's on the wrong side of the aging curve. He's going against Ryan Feltner, even though we prefer him against lefties. That's still a pretty strong matchup. Plus, he's surrounded by a bunch of lefties with Alec Burleson, Nolan Gorman, and Brendan Donovan. And you mentioned it's warm, right? We're almost to that hot and humid phase in St. Louis that turns Busch Stadium into more of a homer-friendly park. We've got an 8 to 12 mile an hour wind going out to center field. It's going to be in the upper 70s. The humidity, not quite the beastly, 90 degrees, 90% humidity, but it's going to be in the 70 or so range for the humidity. So it's getting close. That's one we're going to want to watch here. That was the first time I realized the beauty of dry fit shirts, Matt. I had been growing up in Washington State, Pacific Northwest, won an ESPN contest trip for 2 to the All-Star game. It was in St. Louis in July. It's right there by the Mississippi River, and I did not have dry fit shirts. I bought nothing but dry fit shirts after that because it was also the first summer I lived in Virginia, or second summer, so I hadn't really needed them since I moved out midway through the summer. And from then on, only dry fit shirts. But it's hot and humid, so good times there. Put a bow on our afternoon action here.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of teams look good as far as stacks go. Like, there isn't much pitching to like. In turn, makes a lot of stacks desirable. Texas on paper looks good to me. I don't like their lineup without Corey Seager, but Spencer Howard's not good. So I mentioned them. Milwaukee against Casey Mize. St. Louis projected for too much ownership. I'm not like worried about their ownership, but I don't really see the need to go there. Yeah, the Twins look like the team that's probably getting left out the most. Second overall in the top stack tool, only 6% ownership. They're the highest leveraged team on the board outside of the White Sox, and the White Sox are only that because of the value. So, yeah, a lot of places to go. Wouldn't fault anyone for playing almost any team on this slate. Even the Rockies kind of look good to me against the chalky guy, Kyle Gibson, and pretty good hitting weather in St. Louis today. It's not Coors, but it's still pretty good.
Do you have home run calls?
Do I have home run calls?
Yeah,
I do.
You like here? I need to send a message real quick, so I need you to buy me a couple minutes here.
I got you. All right, so for the early slate, I'm going to go with my new shiny object, the new flashy hot toy. Well, it's not really that because no one's playing him, but Spencer Horwitz, in the 2-hole. I'm going to call him to go yard. I'm going to call 2 really cheap guys in the 2-hole. Zach Deloitte going yard off Brian Bayo in the 2-hole. So, yeah, are you back?
I'm back. I'm back. Just need little love notes here and there. I had to send one to producer Jacob. I don't want him falling asleep. Yeah. So really, you're going against Bayo. I just put $50 on him on Yahoo, and now you're attacking him. I feel like a bait and switch here, Matt.
Yeah, he's just 2,100 hitting second. I just wanted to go off the board.
Okay, that's a little better.
Bayo could be totally good, and he hits a solo home run. You know what I mean?
Well, we can agree to disagree. It's okay. I don't think we haven't had a good battle. We've disagreed on a few things here and there, but nothing to really.
I'm a lover, not a fighter. So
yeah.
Even though I know some of your takes are outrageous, I just agree with you.
That is one thing. I don't have too many spicy hot takes here. It's the being fantasy baseball for year, I don't forget now, 34, 35, somewhere around there. Been doing DFS content for MLB since 2012, so a dozen years doing that. It's you can't get too fired up because there's a slate the next day, and with baseball oftentimes there's 2.
Amen.
Speaking of tools, calling myself a tool, but speaking of other tools here, we've got the stochastic lineup generator. I just want to quickly remind everybody that it covers the main slate for both DraftKings and FanDuel. You can build out lineups that are crafted using all of the tools here behind the scenes at Stochastic. Everything for the sims, the leverage tool, the player projections, the ROI expectations, all that fun stuff is all incorporated into the MLB lineup generator. You can choose your stack types, chalky, balanced, contrarian, all of the above. You can lock in one pitcher. You can lock in a one hitter. For your stack types, you can choose 5-3, 4-4, and 5-0 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, you can go 4-4, 4-3, and 4-2-2. You'll definitely want to check it out. It is a lot of fun. That is the Stochastic lineup generator. I did mention that better is a better way to get some money in your pocket. That is BETR. Use the promo code Stochastic and the number 1. That is Stochastic1, and that will get you up to a $500 deposit match with your first deposit. And then that, that's up to $500. But you know what? We have something free all season. The NFL Best Ball package at Stochastic is free. The only ask is you have to sign up for a Stochastic account. That's it. No cost, no charge. You just got to create your Stochastic account. You can log in, get all the good stuff from Matt Gajeski and other contributors. Wink and a nod, perhaps, I've written player capsules before. Maybe I'll get a chance to do so again this year, but that is free. We have the rankings for Underdog, DraftKings, and Drafters. So check that out. That is free NFL Best Ball, brought to you by Matt Gajeski and Stochastic in general here. All right, our 4-game evening slate starts at 7:35. This is also some interesting options here at pitching. So we have some choices, despite there being just 8 here. You've got on the top end, I would say, well, on the more popular end, Matt Waldron and his knuckleball. So there are a lot of pitchers that throw knuckle curves, knuckle changeups, but he is the only one that kind of throws, and his is kind of combination of both those, but he throws it about 35 to 40% of the time. Most of the other players use it or pitchers use it as kind of a gotcha pitch, or just kind of to keep things or keep hitters off balance. But he is actually the lone practitioner at this point of the knuckleball. So he is an interesting option going against the Arizona Diamondbacks, who have not been that great against righties. They've been solid against lefties. They are improving their offense somewhat since an early swoon, but they are a team that can be exploited. And then you have Hunter Brown as our other option. Price, not really going to have to worry about that. Going against the Angels, well, we're not going to have to worry about Mike Trout. Shohei Ohtani is playing for the other Los Angeles team. You still got Brandon Drury and Anthony Rendon on the injured list. So you're talking 4 premium bats, not even in the lineup, not even available in their cases. Brown has sort of been all over the board, but the strikeouts are what we want. And he has that potential for today. So is there anything you dislike about that, what I think is going to be the top pitching pair for this evening? And then we got nasty Nestor Cortez we got to figure out what to do with. But let's start with these guys since they have the better matchups.
Yeah, no, I see nothing wrong with them. I think the 4 guys getting ownership are the 4 that deserve it. Cortez and Lively are expensive, or more expensive, and in Cortez's stance, he's in a much tougher spot. So yeah, Brown is just in a good spot and he's too cheap. Waldron's been very good, fine spot, and he's also pretty inexpensive. So I see nothing wrong with that.
So as I look towards Brown here, so we'll focus on what Brown can do for you. So he's going to be 26. On the season, he has a 6.2 ERA, a 1.6 whip, and a 1-5 record. The issues, home runs and walks. Guess what? Those are 2 things that do not go well together if you are a pitcher. He does have 60 strikeouts in his 55 innings. His ground balls have increased over the last month. That's helpful. And in his 6 most recent appearances, he has 32.1 innings with 36 strikeouts, a 3.6 ERA. And though his 4.53 FIP indicates that he is not out of the woods yet, this is a big improvement, especially with this matchup. It has been 15 games since the Angels scored more than 5 runs. Let me say that one more time. It has been 15 games since the Angels have scored more than 5 runs. In this stretch, they are averaging 2.5 runs per game. they are handing out quality starts like it is their job. So just sorry, Angels fans. Thankfully, you have those world championships with Trout and Ohtani. Oh, wait, you don't. I'm doubly sorry there. Doubly sorry. So there's my thoughts on Brown. He's my article I also wrote, somehow both his backers and detractors have been disappointed this season. It's been a roller coaster ride with him. Any final thoughts there that you want to add for Brown?
No, it certainly has been a roller coaster ride. Ultimately, I'm a believer in his talent, though. So not the safest play in the world, but he's too cheap. Man, Lively is the guy I can't believe is pitching so well. He's been Cleveland's best pitcher so far this season.
That I'll let you talk about him because he's one of the folks that's come back from the mystical tour known as pitching in Asia, and I can't figure him out, much like I still can't figure out Eric Fede. So we'll let you talk about him. The key things on Waldron here that I wanted to mention. Let's see here. Over his last 5 games, 29.1 innings, he has allowed just 6 earned runs and only 1 home run. That is always good to see. In that 1 home run came against Freddie Freeman, right? So we'll allow that, right? He also survived a start in Great American Ballpark as well as Truist Park in Atlanta. Those are both tough places to pitch. So the last time he had a bad start, he gave up 8 runs in 3 innings. That's what's going to happen sometimes with the knuckleball. In a baseball being baseball moment, that was the Arizona Diamondbacks that did that to him. But I think it's still okay to target him today. Arizona is in the top 10 for runs, total bases, and extra base hits, but they're better against lefties. They have a 95 WRC plus against righties. That is bottom 10, even though it's only 5% less efficient than league average. It's still in the bottom third of the league. So those are the key things I like about Waldron here. Plus, it's an attractive price point. We won't be alone in going with this pairing of pitchers on DraftKings or on Yahoo, but those are the 2 I like. Tell us about Ben Lively. And I didn't call him Blake yet, I don't think. I will before this segment is over.
Yeah, I mean, he's been good. Like 2.84 ERA is excellent. His 3.60 expected is still very good. Striking out 23.3% of hitters. Like, he's been good. From a fantasy perspective, he's been good. From a real life perspective, he's been good. I don't know if I'm completely buying it for the long term, but we've seen guys like Merrill Kelly come over and have a lot of success after they've pitched over there. So I'm not completely ruling it out. Great ballpark, good matchup, wildly in play for me here. No issue with making him your SP1 tonight.
All right. I'm gonna your SP1. This is where I'm not disagreeing. I'm sure he'll be in my lineups because I'm gonna be playing DraftKings and Yahoo, and I've got to play 2 pitchers on both sides. But SP1, that's a bit lofty. But what do you think about Nasty Nestor going against the Dodgers? Always a tough one there, but Cortez does have that unique, when it's working, variety of arm slots and release points that does give him a little bit of an edge. When it's not working, he's very hittable. And we don't want to see not working against these Dodgers.
Yeah, so Cortez has been good, and he's a pitcher I much prefer at home. This year, throughout his career, he's been just significantly better at home. If this were a bigger site, he wouldn't be getting any ownership, and I do think he falls behind the other 3 that we've mentioned. So it's a tough spot. But I think that his upside is right there with, I mean, he's probably the highest on this slate, just considering he's the best pitcher on this slate by a good margin. I think the Dodgers are better against right-handed pitching anyways. So, yeah, I don't think it's crazy on a slate this size to plant your flag on Cortez at all.
That's it, right? It's really a cast of 4 pitchers here.
Yeah, that's it for me. I mean, the other guys are just only ownership plays in large field GPPs, and on slates this size, sure, but I have no redeeming qualities to say about any of the other 4, except for Gavin Stone, I guess, who, man, picking on these Yankees with a right-hander is just a fool's errand almost every time. But Yamamoto was excellent last night. He's been really good. And again, he is not getting any ownership. So I guess he's worth talking about. He's probably too expensive relatively, but he's been good and he's not getting ownership. So puts him in play for me.
All right. Then let's talk some smack about some of these guys, starting off with Roddery Munoz. He is going against your Cleveland Guardians. Munoz was outright released, designated for assignment last year by Atlanta. He bounced between Pittsburgh and Washington just in the minor leagues. Now he is with the Marlins. He does have a 95 to 97 mile an hour fastball, but guess what? So do a lot of relievers these days, and he doesn't have much movement or a secondary pitch. That is creating problems. Batting practice would be one of those problems. 4 home runs to the Dodgers in his last appearance. Even in AAA, last Saturday, just 1 week ago, he allowed 7 runs to the Durham Bulls. Who do you not like for Cleveland today?
No one. I think they look like really good all over the board. I mean, pretty clearly,
Is this going to be a bow nailer night, perhaps?
Perhaps. I guess the only thing you could say about Cleveland and why they're not getting as much ownership as like Houston, the guys you want are expensive. J-Ram, Fry, Jimenez. So, yeah, it doesn't really matter on this slate because there's no expensive pitching, but they are expensive, and there's other good teams on this slate to go to. The Astros, the Dodgers and Yankees, even in tougher spots. The Padres. There's good hitting spots on this slate because there are 4 clear arms to go to, but none of those guys are foolproof at all. And then the other 4 arms we just strictly want to pick on.
Absolutely. So I will say some bad things here about Ryan Nelson, and then I will let you talk about targeting. Who is it? Tyler Anderson, I think, is the one going for the Angels. So Ryan Nelson, control issues. 9 walks in his last 6 starts, only 19 strikeouts. Now that's spanning 32 innings, so the walks, not the end of the world, but the lack of strikeouts is not helping. When he's not missing bats, he's in trouble. So a lot of the time he's not missing bats. 45 hits in his last 32 innings. That's not good. Love Jake Cronenworth. He has a 365 WOBA and 233 ISO in his last 183 lefty-righty matchups. Love Fernando Tatis, 366 WOBA, 209 ISO in his last 192 righty-righty matchups. Nelson has allowed fellow righties a 213 isolated power, and he has been worse against lefties. Biggest knock, Manny Machado dealing with a sore hip. Picked that up on Wednesday in Anaheim. Pinch hit on Thursday. Did not play yesterday. There is a chance they let him sit through the weekend, but they also have said he's day-to-day. So hard to know what is going on there. If he's out, I wrote up that I said I'm not a fan of Donovan Solano. He is just, I then later looked at it. I think he's 2,800 on DraftKings. I was thinking he was like 3,800 or something like that. Okay, 2,800, fine. Put him in your lineup. We'd prefer him against lefties, but Jerkson Profar, switch hitter, looks good. And then I can't think of the guy who's at the top of the order. I think he's won a couple batting championships. Oh, yeah, Luis Arias. He's going to be pretty good here against Ryan Nelson. So that's the core 4 there for you for the pod squad. But I don't think Machado plays, but that doesn't dampen my expectations.
No, I think San Diego looks great here. Nelson, not good. San Diego is good. So I don't think they look better than Cleveland, but I don't think Cleveland looks much better than them. So, yeah, I think the teams that look good on this slate all look pretty similar to me. And then, like, the Yankees and Dodgers, specifically the Dodgers, are in much tougher spots, but clearly their offense and the Yankees off. The 2 best offenses on the slate are the Dodgers and the Yankees, especially with no Kyle Tucker for Houston. Houston's just in a much better spot, and they're cheap. But that's not always what wins MLB GPPs, clearly. So I think there's merit to be had to go to the Dodgers and Yankees. I do think that after Houston, Cleveland, and San Diego look pretty similar to me.
All right. Let's see. I see Arcathel's assist. Yeah. Quick quick slate today. Hey, when we can drag this out if you would like, but we wanted to make sure we get in both slates. I could do some more ads if you guys like. We talked about better using promo code Stochastic. Number one, that is Stochastic, and one, you can get a $500 deposit match. We talked about free DFS, but not DFS, best ball, NFL best ball, presented by Stochastic. All you got to do is have a Stochastic account. That's it. Then you get the NFL best ball package free. We talked about the lineup generator. I see there's a question. Tommy David Walker says, "Oh, does it usually use the non-main slate?" No, sometimes it gets a little wonky. I think earlier DraftKings had announced this afternoon slate was their main slate, but then they've redesignated it because of the resources it takes on the back end and all that other stuff. We just do whatever the sites say their main slate is. Saturdays have been wonky this year. At least with these larger inbound slates, they've been giving us decent tournaments for the 4:00 games. That used to never be the case. 6, 7, 8 years ago, we would beg them to include these into their slates, and they would just iron fisted say, nope, it's only the 7:00 games. So like tonight, you would just be saddled with the 4-game main slate, even though there was a perfectly good 10-game slate 3 hours before. So we're trying to keep up with what is normally happening there. But I believe that would be it. Pierre wants to know Dawn calls. If you could reprise your Dawn calls from the early slate, that would be good. Let me see if I'll make one. I have Cronenworth on the 7th slate. He's my guy.
On the main slate, I am going to go with Josh Naylor. And on the early slate, I went with 2 long shots, but I'm going to go with a more real one, Christopher Morel.
Oh, he's the one guy I've got sitting there as a one-off. Actually, that's a good spot to circle back to. He's my one-off in my my lone Yahoo lineup there. We didn't really who's pitch. Is it Abbott?
Andrew Abbott.
Okay, it's Abbott today. How do you feel about Abbott in this matchup?
Abbott's good
to attack or not? I Abbott and Ashcraft, like Lodolo, you get the strikeouts. Hunter Green, you get the strikeouts. He gives up home runs. The other two guys strike out stuff, but they don't always get strikeouts, and they can melt down, right? Or they can get quality starts. It's hard to know what's going to happen with that crew, but they are in Great American Ballpark today, which is a knock against them. But we didn't really mention Abbott or the Cubs hitters on the earlier slate. What are your thoughts there?
So Abbott's good, but he has a propensity, a big one, to give up right-handed power. So yeah, this is kind of one I think you can look at Abbott, and then you can certainly look to play hitters against them, especially righty power. Great ballpark for hitting. The Cubs look good here. I don't think they look better than some of the other teams we talked about, but they're right on the same range as the Mariners, Cardinals, Twins. They're just another one of these teams. I think they have a lot of upside because even though Abbott's good, he gives up power to righties.
All right. Who was your Minnesota home run call?
I didn't have one from Minnesota, but I went with Zach Deloitte from Chicago.
Okay. Oh, that was who it was.
And it was Horwitz from Toronto.
Okay. I'm going with Max Kepler. I just wanted to make sure we weren't doubling up. I'm going with Mr. Max Kepler there against Carmen Bielzinski. The name on the screen is so far off and chopped off. I had to try to expand that, see if I could get what Polish surname am I going to butcher here. All right, I think we've hit everything. Chat, if you have a couple questions, we'll stay on here for a sec as we sort of wrap things up here. Let me see. Charles Moran, Sir Charles says, I'm legit writing an EMac on my ballot in November. I appreciate that. If you're in a swing state, vote for the incumbent, please. I'd like the world to last so we can sit on our ass and talk about sports for a long time to come. I don't think that we're looking at the decline of all civilization. If the other guy makes it into power, normally I don't get political here, but come on, please, one-time dealer, can we just maintain the status quo? If I had more votes, I would definitely say vote for me because I am the ambassador of the pizza party. That is my platform. Why, Matt? Because everybody likes pizza. Pizza is all inclusive. You want to be a meat lover? You got pizza. You want veggies? You got pizza. You need gluten-free? Not a problem. Pizza is covered for you. And there's even decent vegan cheeses if you have dairy issues. So just saying, pizza's all inclusive. It makes everybody happy. Who says no to pizza? And treat each other.
I didn't know you were a food expert, just like a DFS expert too.
Well, we live across the street from one of the better pizza places I've ever had in my life. And even so we have friends that, depending on who it is, some have dairy and some have, I forget what it's called when you can't eat celiac. Is that it? You can't eat the grains. But they have some great alternative pizzas. Like if I grab the slice of one of theirs, it's like I can't even tell the difference. So there we go. Let's see. The Demon at I don't care. He can be propped up. We can do a weekend at Bernie's kind of thing. Just let's keep civilization hanging on by a thread, please. Because if the climate change doesn't get us, the anger of one of the parties is going to be our demise. So let's not do that. So Paul C very easily, because the other guy has as well. So we got pictures of both. Do you have any bets for today?
I don't. Just playing DFS, playing a couple lineups in the early slate, so just been focused on that. How about you?
I do. The under on strikeouts for Gibson. It's under 5.5. I'm okay with anything at minus 120. If it's worse than that, don't take it. Ideally, you're finding minus, 116, 115. So there we go. All right. With that, before I anger too many people in chat, but I just the status quo. That's it. Let's be nice to each other. Let's keep limping along as a society. Is that too much to ask? I hope not. But we're going to get on out of here, Matt. You guys can follow Matt on Twitter at Fantasy Tips Matt. You can find me at EMac DFS. And of course, it is stochastic_COM. Do not forget, we have playback tomorrow for Game 2 of the NBA Finals. Check that out. Good luck, gamers.